Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the NYC AWS Summit. My name is Kunal Batra. I'm a senior technical evangelist here, and I'm joined by some pretty amazing colleagues. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hey, I'm Brandon.
I'm Robert.
I'm Nikki.
And so we're going to be covering a recap of what happened at the event today. And I guess the best way to start this off is, what were your favorite launches, guys? What got you super excited? and
Favorite
stoked?
launches. That's tough.
CDK.
CDK?
Cloud Event Bridge for me. Making
Yes,
like-
I feel like also just I want to use them together.
Yeah, but I guess we should probably. Some people are like, "What are you talking about?" Because they weren't here earlier when these
Let's
were
back
announced.
up.
So,
Yeah.
I guess maybe let's share a little bit about them. So, you want to start with CDK?
Yes. So if you're familiar with CloudFormation, and if you're not, it's infrastructure as code. So basically outline all the resources that you'd like to create in your infrastructure in a JSON file or a YAML file. Typically, these files get very complicated, and they're not the easiest to write. And so now with the CDK, instead of infrastructure as code, it's infrastructure is code. You can literally write some of your favorite languages to build out Amazon resources, AWS resources, and then it will spit out a CloudFormation template that you can deploy, and you can also use the CDK to just deploy it directly as well.
Yeah, and just to riff on the CDK, because this is the second time you have taken my favorite announcement right before I was going to say it, so I'm a little bitter about that. But CDK is actually a very cool announcement, and in the demo that we had during the keynote, Martin Beebe showed us that just a few lines of CDK code in TypeScript yielded a 700-line CloudFormation template.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he wrote, what, a couple dozen lines at most?
It was like 1,182 lines of CloudFormation, and he had like 5 lines of code.
Yeah. So, I mean, not only is it a matter of what you're reviewing, and it's just a huge difference in the amount of code that's produced. I think the second really cool benefit of the CDK, I mean, it's infrastructure, technically speaking, it's infrastructure as code in either case, right? Whether you're writing TypeScript or whether you're writing YAML, technically both of those are infrastructure as code. So if you didn't care about the amount of code, if that doesn't convince you, there's another reason, which is now you don't need to know so many different domain-specific languages, right? If you're a TypeScript developer, then you can just review TypeScript. But if you have to deal with these different domain-specific languages, that would be like doing a single code review. It's like, oh, I'm reviewing TypeScript now, I'm reviewing Java now, and now I'm reviewing YAML. How do I context switch? And I have made that mistake before where I haven't quite followed quickly enough. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm still reviewing JavaScript, but wait a minute, this is Java. What am I doing? And it's like 30 minutes into the review and I've left all these comments. So I think that's another cool thing about the CDK is it gives you that flexibility to create a workflow that is customized to the needs of your team.
Yeah, and I would agree with you that CloudFormation is its own language. And so it definitely takes that burden off of you of learning that language and just writing the one that you already know.
Yeah, and which is perfectly fine. I mean, don't interpret what I'm saying as it's wrong for you to review CloudFormation. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. It's just that if you already have a development team that is well-versed in a single language, they might feel more comfortable reviewing infrastructure as code in that language.
Yeah, I think another great benefit too is the way that they've added some more abstractions with the idea of these constructs, right? Whereas previously, if you were going to go write all of the CloudFormation yourself, you pretty much have to know what to put for every attribute. You have to know what all of the properties mean and what values should be in there. And using the CDK and these constructs, you basically only define the parts that you are worried about, and the rest gets kind of populated by what we've decided
You mean
are
all the default values
best
for
practices.
things?
Oh, yes.
Exactly. So
Yes.
the amount of options that you have to even worry about when you're reasoning about what goes in my infrastructure is greatly, greatly reduced. And that just makes it way easier for me to start diving into a project. It helps me get to that. Actually looking at what's been deployed is for me when I can actually start moving quickly, and this CDK gets me there way, way faster.
Yeah, so to further on that, as an example, if you wanted to launch a container in Fargate, I don't know how many options there are, but there are like 20 options that you have to click through and set all the defaults on. And so if you were to create a CloudFormation template on that, you have to specify that you want all the default values. And so what Brandon is saying is that you basically just say you just write 2 lines of code to create that service running that one container, and you do not need to set all the default values. They just get set automatically for you without having to write all of it out.
And when you do need to specify those values in anything other than default, if you're using the CDK, as we saw in the keynote this morning, You get type hints because it's TypeScript and it's
Yep.
pulling that from the definitely typed database.
Yep.
So all really cool stuff. If it weren't clear, we're all very excited about the CDK.
I'm not sure Kunal's excited. I haven't heard him.
Kunal, what
I
about
know.
those SageMaker Spot instances? You got to be excited about that.
80% savings or 85% savings? That,
There it is.
that
Look,
is
he had it
insane.
Okay,
memorized.
so you have to
That is
explain to me
insane.
what this means here. Why can users save so much money by using spot instances
So
on
that's a great
SageMaker?
question. So EC2 has a bunch of operational performance just available. And with spot instances, you get the ability to train on that unused EC2 instances, which makes your pricing really, really low because no one's actually using that capacity right now. So it gives you great savings and something that's really, really, I think, awesome.
So do you think there's any risk of kind of needing a certain number of instances for a certain amount of time, and the spot instances are just not going to guarantee that? Do you think what I mean? Let's spitball. What kind of workloads are you imagining where you're like, you know what, I could run this or not run it. If the spot instances fall below a certain price, yeah, then I'll run it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I haven't experimented around with spot instances, but off the top of my head, I think shorter training times, anything that involves shorter intervals, much better. I think something that involves a long time where you can break that training, something you want to avoid.
I see.
Yeah.
And one of our teammates, Shashank Prasanna, published a blog post about using spot instances, reserved instances, the different instance types, and how they can help make your machine learning training significantly cheaper. I don't think it was about this feature specifically, but if you're interested in learning more about that, check it out.
And by the way, I want to specify, I mentioned 80% savings. It's actually 85% savings on your ML workloads with managed spot instances.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is huge. I want to talk about some of the customer announcements, or the customers that we shared the stage with Werner this morning. Perhaps most importantly, we had Andy Fang from DoorDash. Did I get that right? The
Yep.
CTO of DoorDash. He was kind enough to share a promo code for DoorDash with us, and I think we should repeat that, right? It's AWS NYC DoorDash promo code. Just use it. I mean,
it might only work here in Manhattan. I'm not sure, but
okay,
you
well,
should try it and see.
Twitch, you should use it, and you can blame me if it doesn't work. Whatever.
Yeah.
But in addition to the DoorDash discount code, they had a really interesting story to share, right? Because they had a tremendous amount of year-over-year growth, a huge amount of success by building on top of Aurora Postgres. And I think this really hammered home to me this point that we've seen a lot of narrative recently in the last decade or so about migrating away from relational databases, the extra agility that NoSQL databases give you. Personally, I'm in that camp as well. I kind of reach for the NoSQL database until I need the transactional consistency and the referential integrity and all those things. But it's just really cool hearing from a startup work in this way where they've achieved so much success with a relational database. And the thing that it reinforced for me was, hey, relational databases don't have to slow you down. You don't have to get caught up in just sharding the database constantly, managing replication. I think they cited that the replication latency between the different availability zones in their region was between 3 and 5 milliseconds. That's synchronous replication time between their high availability database deployment. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think another aspect of that too is that you don't necessarily have to be slowed down by relational databases, but you also don't have to be slowed down by trying to use a system or a service or a piece of technology that's outside the existing expertise of your team. So sometimes you hear about the shiny new thing that's being released. I'm way quicker personally using a good old SQL database than I am doing anything with a NoSQL database, just because of the amount of time I've spent learning that. So I think that's also a cool part of that story is that you don't always have to be building on the shiniest, newest, fanciest, coolest, serverless, whatever. You can still make meaningful things. And sometimes it's important to invest in the areas where your strengths already exist in order to move quickly. So you can migrate to the cloud, but still retain a lot of that same direct knowledge that applies to how you build your software.
Definitely, yeah. And I think Andy said it better than anybody else that at AWS we have this concept of database freedom, right? And we now have so many different databases. And it really kind of goes to your point that there's the right tool for the job for you on AWS if you're choosing a database.
Yeah.
Speaking of the right tool for the job, what do you guys think of Aurora Serverless?
Aurora Serverless?
Yeah.
I love it. I especially love it now that there's a data API.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
fantastic. Yeah, the HTTP API is the part of it that I think makes it super interesting because that makes it then a first-party integration for serverless applications. You don't have to
Yep.
attach your lambdas to your VPCs
You don't have
so
to
they
put
can
your
talk
Lambda
to.
in a VPC.
Yeah, it's pretty much makes it way easier, which is cool.
A key
And
point.
I'm looking forward to never ever implementing an ORM in JavaScript ever again.
Yeah.
Personally, that's just me. But
Free those lambdas.
So I started
Free
off
the
saying I was
lambdas.
super excited about EventBridge, and then we didn't talk about it because we got so excited about CDK. So
Oh, we missed EventBridge.
yeah, so I think we should spend a few minutes talking about EventBridge, right? So I guess to start off, what is EventBridge? Well, a lot of the things that happen on cloud architecture are event-driven, right? Lambda's an example.
Event-driven's also just like a popular way to design architecture these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think of any sort of message bus, right? So
It's now a buzzword.
yeah.
Event-driven architecture.
So the cool thing about EventBridge is that it lets you integrate your apps with third-party SaaS tools that can then publish those events to your system. So that's really, really incredible. You can think now, instead of having to go write custom integrations for all these other services that you might want to be working with, now they can directly send you the information, the events that are relevant to your workflows, and you can then have your application respond to them, do whatever that needs to be done. To me, this is incredibly cool. It really is sort of standardizing a way for you to get those events from other parties. To me, the amount of cool things this is going to enable is, I can't even think of, like, I don't know. I think this is just like game changing in a way that I can't understand yet.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly cool, and I think it's getting ahead of a problem, which is if any of you have heard of Alex Castlebani, he's one of our colleagues who covers the Europe region, and he's written about all the different ways that you can trigger a Lambda function. And there's like 20 different ways to trigger a Lambda function. I don't know about you, but I can't keep track of all that. But what I can keep track of is an event bus with a set of APIs that will gradually evolve over time. For me, that's
Specifically, that partner SaaS integration, though, is really a key feature of the EventBridge because
Yes.
EventBridge we all know to be similar with CloudWatch events, and we're familiar with that kind of event bus helping us along and helping our AWS services talk to each other. But now with partner integration, you can do things like have Zendesk support ticket go somewhere else than where it was going before and distribute it to the appropriate methods and people that it needs to get to.
Yeah.
That's awesome. One of the other services that we launched today was CloudWatch Container Insights. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that service, but it's really fascinating. And one of the stats that the service owner, Mark, mentioned was that currently in CloudWatch, we have 1 quadrillion metric observations. And when he mentioned that number, quadrillion, I was like, that is a huge number, right? Triggers more than 3.9 trillion events, ingests more than 100 petabytes of logs per month. And so on top of that, today, we're adding the ability to monitor metrics for your containers as well throughout all our container solutions, which I thought was just crazy, right? So
Yeah,
it's a
that
great
is a
way
huge number.
to track what you're doing and also act and set triggers on certain actions that you want to happen. Thought it was a really awesome announcement.
Yeah.
We have a random question from Nutpicker. Are your blue earrings 3D printed?
Oh no, they're not. These are silicone. But yeah, zoom in there. These are tunnels. I've thought about getting a 3D printer to print some plugs though, because it would definitely work. I know some people have done it.
That would be cool.
Yeah, and there's another important question from an earlier stream that I wanted to get to. Robert, why don't you have stickers on your laptop?
What are you talking about?
Oh
I've got
my.
this sticker right here.
That's your one sticker?
Twitch, you can't say I have no stickers. I've got this sticker right here.
It's not even fully on.
Yeah, it is.
What happened?
I'm
Afraid of
It's
commitment, I
half
think.
off.
yeah, I'm afraid of commitment. Exactly.
That looks like fear of commitment to me.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm not going to talk about that on Twitch, okay?
It's going to turn into a live stream therapy session.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about the customer.
Yeah.
So during the keynote, another really interesting customer we had on stage was Justin Fox, who is head of platform innovation from New Data Security. And the thing he said 2 things that really resonated with me, and I want to tee this up because I want to hear all your opinions about this. The first is the 3 ways that product connects to their customers. That uses CloudFront, Global Accelerator, and Direct Connect. I just think that's a fantastic showcase of the flexibility of the Amazon global network. We've been investing in this global network for over a decade. It is now one of the most extensive networks out there. It is certainly the largest footprint network of any public infrastructure provider. That just blew my mind that
Is mind-blowing.
this customer is just kind of tackling all these different ways for connectivity to meet their customers' security requirements.
And get them the information they need as fast as humanly possible.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Highly available environment.
Highly available. And the second thing is, the second thing Justin mentioned that was interesting to me, he had a statistic on a slide that was like, our ML workloads are now 95% simpler. And okay, Justin, I don't know how you're quantifying simplicity. I would like to know, so please shoot me an email. I want to hear how you got that number. But suppose that number is even in the ballpark of even that like same order of magnitude. I think that's incredible because one of the things that we often overlook as we're building out all of this product features, all these new architectures, we have all these shiny toys available to us on AWS. It just takes seconds to spin up. Is that the infrastructure and the architecture can often sprawl, right? And that's a very difficult thing to fix later on. Is like if I don't understand how the system is working, how can I improve it? How can I fix it? So although I'm kind of teasing about the 95% simplicity reduction metric, I do think that a lot of the announcements we heard today were around simplifying and making sure that your services are under control, right? Whether that's observability, whether that's an integrated software development lifecycle that includes security as a first-class citizen. A lot of the
Ease of use.
Ease of use, yes. Or the CloudFormation template that we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Not having to write a 1,000-line
That's purely
YAML
ease of
documents,
use right there.
right? I think all of these share this underlying theme of simplicity, which really matters because, we only have a limited amount of mental capacity to worry about things. That's why these abstractions matter to us so much. But that can get to an inflection point where there's too many abstractions. Now we don't know what's going on. So I really like that theme of the announcements that we've made today. I was wondering if you all detected the kind of a similar.
I think that's a general theme for AWS though, and that's what makes it like. Even though there's so many services and it might be like scary coming in as a customer, once you start to have an understanding of how things work together, it's very easy because you see new things coming in and that might be scary, but they're actually to make your life easier.
Yeah, I agree. I think that observability specifically was a theme that I saw today, especially on the streams and some of the partners we had up here. We had the CTO of Epsagon talking about their tool and how it helps, again, with that observability, especially when it comes to that serverless paradigm, right? Now when you're converting the serverless, you start having a lot of orchestration between different Lambda functions and microservices. And again, that observability is huge to kind of find out what's happening, what's going wrong, how to fix and optimize bottlenecks and latency, right? So that was a huge theme. And then again, CloudWatch Container Insights, again, goes back into that observability and finding out what's going on in your containers now, and again, fixing any bugs and troubleshooting and monitoring as well. So I think it was a big theme.
Yep, and we also had one announcement that was announced here live on the Launchpad, which was the local endpoints for testing ECS containers with Docker Compose. And that was really, really cool. I mean, being able to work with your local containers the same way you would with your production containers, again, simplifies the amount of things you have to worry about when you're thinking about how do we test, how do we deploy from one stage to another. All of those things, way simpler when you can just test them the same way.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well,
I think we did an amazing job recapping today's events.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of great announcements. I'm sure that we have missed some of them. But the cool thing about this is that all of the sessions from the summit will be available on YouTube by next week, I believe. They try and get them up in a week. So you can watch the keynote. You can watch all of us again if you haven't gotten your fill yet. And you can also see all the breakout sessions that are happening here at the Expo Hall. So yeah, I mean, I think this has been a pretty fantastic AWS Summit here in New York City.
This has been excellent.
Yeah.
It's been a blast.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I hope everyone out there enjoyed it as much as we have. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you again on the next stream.